Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we are going to take a look at the final of this new wave of Takara Tomy figures that was sent to me. I believe there is also actually a Baby Blue and a Pteranodon that has recently come out, but I don't quite have that one yet to review for you guys. I'll look into getting that one in the very near future. However, this one today is the Allosaurus, and you can see a very cool image there of the Allosaurus figure itself, the Jurassic World logo there as always. Some very cool images up here on the top, showing the articulated jaw here in the bottom left as well. You've got a shot of Blue and the T-Rex on the side. Another image here on the back of the Allosaurus, Blue the T-Rex, and a few images there of some of the articulation of the figure. And then another shot on the side again of the articulation of this Allosaurus. So without further ado, let's get this out of the box and look at it. And there is our Allosaurus. Very, very cool looking at first glance. I think the sculpt and everything looks really quite beautiful, and I am definitely excited in general for Takara Tomy to be making the Battle at Big Rock figures, because I think it's really cool to have these not only in the Mattel versions, but also in the Takara Tomy versions. This one here looks honestly a little bit different as far as the paint apps go compared to the Mattel one, but it really still looks very, very cool, very highly detailed, and I am definitely excited to take a closer look at it. So let's do that right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt, you can see that as far as the very minute, smaller details go, there is definitely a lot going on when it comes to the head sculpt of this Allosaurus. The Allosaurus crest up there looks really nice, and you can actually see some very nice cracks and crevices throughout that area of the head crest to really show just how nicely detailed this Allosaurus truly is. You can see the eye is painted beautifully right there with a nice yellow color and a black pupil. It also shines and glistens in the light really nicely, very realistically, like a living, breathing animal's eye would do. So that is really nice to see. The jaw is articulated here, if I can open it. It's a little hard to do that with one hand, but you can see the inside of the mouth is actually colored the same as we saw in the previous Allosaurus, I believe, with that same style of a darker gray or almost like a purplish color. It really looks nice. The inside of the mouth has a very nice appearance to it. The teeth are kind of painted all together, which definitely looks kind of like it's sloppy, and you can actually see a little bit of the paint ran up onto the jaw here. But I don't really think it's that bad, because again, it is a really small figure, so for the paint application to be a little bit bunched up and a little bit mushy kind of in the teeth, it's to be expected, especially when all the teeth are kind of sculpted together. You're not really going to find any way around that, but I still think that it does look half decent. Definitely doesn't take too much away from the figure, especially if you have the mouth closed. Actually, I think it really looks very nice with the mouth closed. I'm not sure, a lot of the time you get a theropod figure with an articulated jaw, and sometimes it'll just look really nice with the mouth open but not so nice with the mouth closed, or vice versa, so it really just depends. But with this Allosaurus, I kind of like it with its mouth closed. I'm not really sure why. As you start to run down the neck, you can see just how nicely done the sculpt and detail is. You've got some very nice ridges up here along the spine like you do see on the Mattel version. Again, we can't exactly compare this to the film version as we have not actually seen it yet. The film The Battle at Big Rock was supposed to debut with the Hobbs and Shaw film, but it has now been delayed. I'm not sure why, so unfortunately we will not get to see that quite yet, and I have no idea when it will actually debut. But you can see that the coloration is a very nice lighter blue here on the face, and then it transitions to a darker blue up here on the back, but you still sort of get a mixture of that lighter blue in certain areas, which helps to give it a very nice appearance as far as skin tone goes. As you move down along the neck, you can really see how nice the scaling looks. You got a few skin folds and everything here in the neck, really showing the beautiful sculpt, but also giving you the large animal feel when it comes to the way the skin is sculpted as far as the skin texture and the scaling. Really nicely sculpted arms. They feel kind of, honestly, in general, this Allosaurus, looking at it, feels kind of shrink wrapped and a little bit unhealthy, because if you look in the stomach region, it's almost hard to get an angle of it, but it really looks thin, very thin, and I kind of feel like that might be the idea behind this. I think that maybe that will play into the film. I don't entirely know. I don't know entirely for sure, but if you look at the arms are very, very thin. And we saw the Indominus sculpt, and that was not the case with the Indominus. The Indominus was really beautifully fed. It was very healthy looking, but this Allosaurus not so much. You can actually really see the rib cage here on the animal really being heavily portrayed in the stomach, and you didn't see that with the Indominus. And also you can see the arms are very thin. I mean, you would expect Allosaurus arms to be thin, but maybe not quite as thin as you see on this. So I'm wondering if maybe that might be part of the battle at Big Rock, but maybe not, and maybe that just might be an idea that went through the minds of Takara Tomy when creating this figure, kind of giving it the appearance of a weak Allosaurus that is in desperate need of a meal, and that is why he is about to try his luck and take down the Nasutoceratops. But as you can see up here on the hands are sculpted really nice. The nails are painted, which is always something that's awesome to see. As you come along the back, you can see that the sculpt work looks really nice. You also get those ridges back here in the hip region like you did see on the Mattel version. Very nice musculature here in the legs that extends all the way down into the thigh. You've got the very beautiful looking Allosaurus feet. They look extremely bird-like, really, really beautiful. Even the dew claws are painted back there, which is nice to see. Also, of course, the regular everyday feet claws that you see up here are painted, but I'm really impressed when I see dew claws painted, because more often than not, companies tend to miss out on those, and I'm not sure why, but we didn't have that here with the Takara Tomy figures, so I am super appreciative of that fact. And then as you extend out here under the tail, you can again, of course, pick up on the gaps between these two areas, which is kind of a Takara Tomy trademark. That's just the way they do their figures, but these areas are what allows you to articulate the tail. You can see some very nice skin wrinkling and everything, kind of showing the movement of the dinosaur right there behind the thigh. Very nice skin texture as you run out the length of the animal. Again, those ridges continue along the entire tail, all the way down to the end of the tail, and the paint application looks great. It really is beautifully applied, just like we've seen on all of these previous figures. You look at this side of the head, you can again see how nicely glossed and painted the eye is, and the body in general is kind of the same deal over here that you saw on the other side, as far as it being in sort of a neutral position. The only real difference is that the legs are in a slightly different position, with this leg being forward just a little bit, I think, than the opposing leg, but it really does look very nice as far as the sculpt work goes on both sides. It is very highly detailed. Even the underside is really nicely detailed, and I'm really intrigued about this kind of malnourished look to this Allosaurus. I don't know if that was done on purpose, but I would love to know more if it was. But again, the sculpt, the detail, the paint, everything looks awesome on this, so it's yet another fantastic Takara Tomy figure. As far as the articulation goes, as we stated, we do have the articulated jaw that works really well. You can open it to whatever length you pretty much would like, and it stays perfectly. You have no articulation in the arms. They, of course, can bend just because they're a rubbery feel to them, sort of, like a hard rubber, but it doesn't move at the joints or anything. However, the legs, of course, do at the hip, and you can definitely allow some very cool posability and potentially some very cool scenes when it comes to the articulation of this figure. And you can also see that the tail does articulate right there and then right here, which does allow you to position the tail in some very cool different ways to allow for, once again, some more posability with your figure. I actually just noticed now while I'm looking at it that the color variation on the head is really nicely done. It's kind of a little bit of a darker blue right here in the snout, but then around the eye it's a lighter blue, and then it transitions to a different version of a darker blue right here, and almost like a bluish green all throughout. So as far as the paint application goes, this is really quite impressive, and it balances perfectly, just like all these Takara Tomy figures really seem to do. As far as the size goes, from the head to the tail, you're looking at about 6¼ inches, almost 6½ inches, or 16 centimeters. And if it's standing in this position, as far as the height goes, you're looking at about 3¼ inches, or a little bit about 8½ centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, and once again you can see that the Allosaurus is definitely a fairly decent size for being a Takara Tomy figure, but it is really no comparison to the large Papo T-Rex, because the Papo T-Rex is a pretty darn big figure in general. But this should also help to give you a good idea of how insanely well sculpted these Takara Tomy figures are in comparison to a Papo, because the Papo is much bigger but has very nice sculpt, but they cram that same similar style sculpt and detail into a much smaller figure when it comes to these Takara Tomys. and it really shines through and just shows how beautiful they truly are. And for another size comparison, here are all 3 of these newer Takara Tomy figures that were sent to me from Ramstoys. Very, very awesome of them to send these to us, and it's really cool to get a chance to show you guys all 3 of these here on the channel. So, as I said before, thank you so much to them, and thank you also for sending this image here, which shows these Takara Tomy figures right here, with many others of the Mattel toy line when it comes to just how small and beautiful they are in comparison to those figures. I truly am a huge fan of these Takara Tomy figures. So me personally, I am in love with all 3 of these, and getting these figures in hand, really taking a nice close look at them and seeing just how beautiful of a job Takara Tomy does, I am now convinced that I need to get all of the other Jurassic World Takara Tomy figures and take a look at those as well with you guys, because these are actually really, really impressive, really beautifully sculpted as far as the detailing and likeness of the figures go. I think they hit the nail on the head straight away with all 3 of them when it comes to matching them up to what they are supposed to look like as far as film versions, or what we do know as far as these Battle at Big Rock figures go for what they're supposed to look like, because I think they beautifully match up to the Mattel versions. But until we see the film, we won't truly know if maybe these are a little more accurate than the Mattel ones. We just don't know for sure. And Lord knows when we'll actually get a chance to see that film now that it's been delayed. But regardless, they still look fantastic as far as the sculpts. I think the skin texture, all the skin wrinkling and muscle tone and everything is just perfect on all of these. I think they all look beautiful. And they have continuously done a great job on all 3 of these when it comes to that. When it comes to the paint application, I love these as well, because I think they've done a beautiful job of making sure that the paint apps look very natural and look like body color and not paint. They have beautifully applied these with an airbrush and perfectly painted each and every one of these, in my opinion. This Allosaurus does have a slight bit of sloppiness when it came to the mouth area and the teeth being painted. It kind of ran up onto the snout a little bit, but not too much. Overall, I think it's a very minute issue, and for the most part, these have all been beautifully painted with no sloppiness really anywhere aside from that one tiny little area here on the Allosaurus. The nails being painted is also another huge deal for me, because I hate when I have to see figures that don't have their nails painted like a lot of the Mattel ones. It really just kind of irks me, so that's awesome to see that Takara Tomy does not do that, and they make sure that the nails on their figures are painted like they should be. So all of these Takara Tomy figures were fantastic. I loved all 3. Again, thank you so much to Ramstoys for sending these over for us to look at. So if you do want to thank them, the easiest way is to head on over to their eBay store and pick up some of these beautiful Jurassic World Takara Tomy figures. So I will include a link in the description straight to this Allosaurus, where you can head on over there, buy this for yourself, and then browse around and see what other awesome Takara Tomy figures you can pick up. But before you do that, don't forget to please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.